Hi, my name is Peter Neufeld. I'm from EY. I'm a partner leading our digital customer experience capability for EMEIA. And I'm excited to speak to you today about how we design the new invisible interface and the role that AI, data, and insights that we develop about our customers have in that new immersive voice and chat experience. And I think all of us have been in an experience over the last year where we're dealing with new ways of engaging, new ways of working. I think what we've learned through lockdown is that we can use virtual and digital tools to do a lot of the things that maybe we thought before would have been difficult or even impossible to do. And when I speak to a number of executives, there's a big view in terms of leadership that their teams were able to achieve things that they wouldn't have thought possible even a year ago. But it also means there's a lot of uncertainty, and the spheres of our lives are coming together. The roles we have as consumers, as colleagues, caring for our families and loved ones, homeschooling in many markets during lockdown, how we build and establish communities, and how we support the front line. And I think a number of things have come forward in terms of the purpose that organizations have and how they design services and experiences, especially as it relates to our personal health, our personal financial life, our feelings of security and confidence in digital and virtual environments, and also our sense of purpose. And we saw that globally, whether it had to do with the response to COVID during the pandemic, the implications of the Black Lives Matter movement and a drive for social justice and anti-racism, and indeed climate change is a constant and evolving threat that we need to face into in our markets. And what we're seeing as we look at how we design experiences in the future, how we make services more digital and virtual to meet this changing demand, to meet this global adoption of digital and virtual ways of engaging with the brands that give us the products and services that we need, we're beginning to identify the real opportunity that advanced analytics and platforms have in terms of providing better service to customers, becoming more customer-centric and purpose-centered in the way they approach engaging with customers, and the way we can use AI and machine learning to get to the heart of how immersive voice and chat, how richer, more personalized digital and virtual experiences can reduce the cost to serve customers, but also serve them more safely and more effectively. And what we've seen in research that we've conducted across the markets here in Europe is that the accelerated adoption of digital and virtual services is here to stay. Most customers across most sectors are letting us know that they're using more services digitally than ever before, and more than a quarter of them will see themselves using more digital services in the future, even at a point post-pandemic. So the majority of customers are telling us, even if they hadn't used digital before, they're finding it convenient, they're finding it effective, and certainly in some markets where lockdowns are in place, they're finding it safe. And in many cases, it can be the only way to access those services. I think what's really critical here is customers are learning how to use digital and virtual across all demographics. They're becoming more confident, and helping them develop that confidence, as we'll see later, is critical. When we looked across these four sectors, retail, banking, utilities, telco, the primary driver had to do with convenience. Convenience was the number one reason people wanted to access services through digital and virtual channels. And sometimes that convenience was, the aspect of just being able to do it more quickly, and speed and access were right there, followed by the hygienic and safer side of it. So we think about speed, access, confidence, and safety are really driving that trajectory of adoption. And what we can see is that a lot of work we might have been doing years before to try to get customers to use digital channels, to adopt lower cost to serve channels, they've now done that in mass. How do we then take advantage of that? How do we then improve and refine those services so they can truly meet their needs? Now, refining that service is going to be critical because a lot of customers are also saying what those barriers to adoption were, what their reluctance was in terms of continuing using services digitally. Many of them still prefer the way they did things before. Also, others find face-to-face experiences more personalized. They find the service experience is better in person. They get a better result. So when we're thinking about rapidly setting up a digital transaction to accommodate a customer need, if that digital transaction is unresponsive, if that digital transaction doesn't take into account who I am, what I need, if it's not personalized and dynamic, it's not going to hold that customer in terms of their desire to use that once markets open up. We've got to get at the heart of how we make these services more personal, more aware, more meaningful. And this, I think, is where AI, machine learning, advanced analytics have a real role to play in building more dynamic, more personalized, and truly more innovative experiences that can make that interaction seem more personal. Also, I think it's critical at this stage to highlight that by doing this, we're not talking about digitizing the human experience out of the service. What we want to do is create human contact through virtual channels, like the virtual contact we're having today. We're attending a conference, you're watching me on a screen. The ability for us to connect as humans through this digital interface is still very powerful. How do brands begin to provide that more consultative service to customers through virtual channels to take advantage of their staff's ability to engage? And I think that virtual communication, everyone in every market has learned how to use Zoom, learned how to use Teams, learned how to have a virtual chat. How do we bring that into our service experience and make it more meaningful? And a lot of the foundational platforms like that Microsoft, for example, offers in Teams are already working hard to help us do that. How do we take advantage of those technologies that are already in our data centers, that are already part of our approved infrastructure to drive solutions forward? This doesn't mean that we've got a captured customer audience. This doesn't mean that we own the customer. Customers own themselves, and they make choices and decisions about the services they need based upon a number of criteria. And we're seeing a lot of switching activity, and we're seeing that, in some cases, one out of 5 customers are thinking about switching right now. They're thinking about changing a service provider that they've used in the past and that they've been using through the pandemic. A lot of them are switching because they're looking for a better deal. And I think that speaks to some of the economic pressures many individuals and families find themselves in across the markets that we serve. People are suffering from furloughs, they're suffering from limited incomes, and that's driving a value discussion when they look at the services that they currently get. Some are dissatisfied with the service they received during the pandemic, during the lockdown, and that's a really critical one. That's something we need to focus on getting right, because if I'm value oriented and I'm looking really, really hard at where your service is in my wallet position, and I'm dissatisfied at that service, those two experiences together are enough to get me to change banks for that, or to change utilities for that, or to cut my data plan and move to a different telco, or to stop buying from one provider and shift to another. And if you're in retail, your constant concern is going to be how you compete with an Amazon same-day delivery. People's needs have changed as well during lockdown. So, for example, if I take myself, I need better Wi-Fi at home. I've got my children homeschooling with my wife. I've got work that I need to do as a partner at EY. I need better service. I need more improved service. So my needs have changed. Therefore, I might consider switching services. And some people no longer need the service that they've got. So you could think about a number of things in there where, you might just say, look, I'm not driving to work every day. Maybe I change my relationship with my insurer. Maybe I'm not using my commuting services in the same way, and I change my relationship there. So I think a lot of also is to understand what your service proposition, how well suited is it to the evolving needs of your most high priority customer segments? And how do you ensure that you're continually staying relevant to the needs that your customer has? This, I think, if you walk away with one thing today, how do I as an organization understand the needs of my customers, apply that to how I design and build my services so that I can honestly say I'm staying relevant to their needs as they evolve, because the needs are evolving now at a much higher pace, and they're evolving in different ways for different segments and for different vectors of affordability, financial stability, financial well-being, and vulnerabilities indeed within those segments. If we think about the invisible interface, one of the things we really need to start thinking about is how we make it easier for people to use our services. We need to simplify services. And what this shows you is that regardless if you're a digital native, a digital migrant, or a digital explorer, these are just fancy ways of saying, you're very young and you've always used digital, you're digitally native. You're a digital migrant, you're like my age, you started out when you went to university, but then now I've become a digital leader, let's say, for example, and digital explorers, people who are older who are using digital now. What we're seeing is that regardless of where you come from, as service complexity and process complexity increases, our desire to have human contact goes up. We want to talk to somebody. Now, service complexity can be there because we haven't designed the service well enough. We've paved over the goat tracks of a non-digital service. Customers try to use it and it doesn't work well. They go into a call center because they don't understand what we're asking them for. But there's another side to this where a service might in itself be complex. Buying a car is a complex transaction. Buying a mortgage is a complex transaction. We can simplify it, but because of the size of the transaction and the importance to the individual and their family, perhaps, they want to speak to an individual. But we can support that need through digital channels that enable a human-to-human contact, but mitigated through a digital and virtual context and interface. It is important, though, through the entire experience that we are obsessed about removing service complexity that is there unnecessarily and understanding how we support customers in their decision-making around complex needs. And we've looked at how this invisible interface can take place. We've concepted and designed virtual financial assistants that allow customers to say to an invisible interface, Livia, take me and my wife's financial information, find us a better credit card to move our debt on, however much we save, put that in a child savings account. And at least Livia can come back and do that instantaneously with PSD2 and open banking protocols. The ability for me to have a conversation. And we're finding this is really, really effective when families are coming together to do their financial planning. They've got spreadsheets open on multiple laptops. They've got mobile apps open, checking banking and retirement. And now they've got another interface they can engage with that can help them have a meaningful conversation, a meaningful engagement. And we're seeing that spread across a number of areas, an ability to take the transactional data that banks and financial institutions and retail have and give me a timeline back about my life. Help me understand my life more deeply, more richly. Help me find the things I'm looking for. Help me engage more meaningfully. Or connect me to a marketplace where I can find products and services that you're curating on my behalf that truly meet my needs. And behavior change and personalization is already there. We're using wearables. We want to stay motivated. We want to know how to get started. We want to change over time. We want to be measured in how we're doing. And we're willing to stay connected, especially during challenging times. Our customers are more digitally enabled than they've ever been before, and more confidently, I would argue, than they've ever been before. And as we think about proposition design, I want to encourage you to think about a shift from user and customer-centered to human and purpose-centered design. What I mean here is, user-centered and customer-centered design are ensuring that products are simple, ensuring that services are simple, ensuring I can sell you a mortgage. And that's great, and we should get that right. But that's not going to give us the full benefit. That's not going to give us the full engagement we're looking for. When we shift to human-centered and purpose-centered, we go from selling you a mortgage to helping you buy a home and ultimately help you become a better homeowner. And the work that we've done, when we focus on user and customer centricity, we do see a reduction in cost, 20 to 30%, an elimination of failure demand in the service proposition through digital channels. And we'll see a 10 to 20% increase in sales because we're getting better, we're getting smarter in how we use digital. But when we shift to human-centered, when we shift to co-creation, when we shift to deeply understanding how we bring customer insight into the service design process and how we design more iteratively and agile, we can see significant revenue increases because we can bring more, in that example of home buying, than a mortgage to the table. We can bring financial planning. We can bring retirement planning. We can bring savings and insurance. We can bring third-party relationships with movers and decorators, home improvement DIY solutions. There's a number of other brands that can bring in affiliate offers. And we can see significant increases in efficiency because we're designing this from a sense of purpose, not just to help you apply for a mortgage through a digital channel more efficiently, but to help you make all the decisions and keep track of them that you need to make to buy a home and become a better homeowner. So I'm about to finish off, and I just want to leave you with this notion of this customer experience power up. We have access to new technologies that have become almost commodities. AI and machine learning are no longer science fiction concepts in Blade Runner. They're things you can access today through the vendors and the capabilities that you already have inside your organization. How do you best take advantage of it? How do we create human centered and purpose centered platforms that can help people make better decisions and create personalized engagements? One is, I think we need to bring people together, create connected propositions. The customer in that interface that is talking to you, that's engaging with you, is part of a community, part of a network, part of a family. And bringing those connections together can create new opportunities to serve. How do I take care of my children, my wife, my family, my employees, my colleagues, my aging parents? How do I make all the decisions that I need to make, not just in a single highly efficient digital transaction, but in that end-to-end life journey I'm on? How do I focus not just on customer needs, but human needs and enable purpose in my organization? We know this motivates people. We know this drives value. We know it also means that we can build relevance into our products and services that's more sustainable. Fundamentally, we must continue to simplify. We must continue to simplify every single product and service experience. We need to bring it down to its simplest, most basic elements, not reduce the necessary complexity of things that require it, but make sure that we're not putting in unnecessary complexity. Simplify, simplify, simplify. I think we also need to integrate the marketplace to engage and grow. We need to build trusted networks that expand beyond our core business offering and bring other sectors into play that converge around that human centered and purpose centered need. That's helping you buy a home and become a better homeowner concept I offered earlier. We must be able to bring more than just our product and services to the table to do that, whether we're a retailer, a telco, or a bank. Finally, build in adaptability. I think those that had purpose, those that had teams that were already geared up to work virtually and agile, did really, really well. But as we design for change, as we build new services and resilience into our operating models, and as we become more effective in designing in a human-centered and purpose-centered way, we need to make sure that we're building in adaptability. Because one thing we do know for sure, the uncertainty ahead will continue, and how we navigate that will be critical to our success. So I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to present to you. Look forward to any questions you might have, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference, and I hope you enjoyed my session. Thank you very much.